This is Patrick from Severe Torture, and you're watching Richard Metal Fan.
Hey, what's up, guys? Episode 269 of Richard Metal Fan Interviews, calling from Zoom, and I'm here with Patrick from the almighty Severe Torture. So how are you doing today, Patrick?
I'm doing just fine. It's beautiful weather here today, so I'm just taking it easy today.
Awesome. The same thing with me. So, kind of the format of the show is I want to do a rundown of your discography as I want to talk about the new album as well as your musical history, but take you back to young Patrick. So, kind of growing up in the Netherlands, what were the first bands that got you into metal? What made you want to slap at the bass?
Yeah, great question. Like I think most metalheads, I got introduced to metal through like Metallica or Iron Maiden, And when I saw some footage of the almighty Cliff Burton, I was sold. I just thought I have to do that myself. So that made me pick up the bass.
Yeah. Yeah, were you like listen because I remember the first time I heard like his playing because I remember hearing like the instrumental Orion. There's a little bass little solo that does in there, which I almost thought it was a guitar, but it's just like a bass with like a heavy distortion pedal and wall, which is I think he's like the first bassist to ever do that, besides like Geezer Butler from Black Sabbath.
Yeah, well, it was my first connection with that kind of bass playing. So it's not that I incorporated in my own playing, but it sure as hell made me play bass. So.
Awesome. So I was like doing my research on Metal Archives. I believe one of your bands, like I would think it was around the time Severe Tortured was formed, was Centurion. Like, tell me about that because I don't think nobody ever talks about that stuff.
Well, Centurion was it started with two guys. One of them had the band called Inquisitor. This drummer was that. His name is Wim, and then he met with Rob. Rob is the mastermind of Centurion. He writes all the riffs, all the lyrics. He comes up with the concepts, and they needed a vocalist. And our drummer said he tried out for that position, and then he got the job. And then they needed a bass player, and Seth knew me and asked me if I was interested in doing it. So that's how I got into that band.
Yeah. Yeah. But tell me about like
We did some very
you're saying.
we did some very cool stuff. If we got the demo and it got a lot of attention. We signed to Full Moon Records from the US, and then we did our first full length.
Yeah.
And
Chronosonic Chaos Gods.
yeah, that's the one. And I
Yeah.
think we did a lot of cool stuff with it, playing live shows. We even played the Milwaukee Metal Fest when it still existed.
Yeah. And it's
But
back
for
now.
yeah, yeah, yeah. And for some reason, I know it didn't get picked up that much. Centurion, a lot of the bands liked it. But for some reason, I don't know, man. And so eventually, me and Seth left, and they did like another full length,
Yeah.
and then
Yeah.
they quit.
Yeah. But that first album is really good. And I thought it was another interesting fact. Apparently, Rob had used his own blood to paint the cover of the album.
Yeah, yeah, he did.
How did he come up with that? Because that had to be amazing and painful at the same time.
Well, he did, it's not something that he talks a lot about, but he did some rituals beside the band, which involved blood. So for him, it was not so big a deal just to cut himself and collect enough blood to to paint that cover. Yeah, it's actually pretty cool. If you, yeah, no, it's a real cool drawing, and yeah, he did it with his blood, so dedicated as hell.
Yeah. And hard to believe it's been 25 years since that album came out. So how do you feel about it now, 25 years later?
If I listen to it, I think we could have done better, of course, but for that time it was just perfect. And actually, if you allow me to talk about the latest record we did with Centurion, uh, I think we released that in somewhere in 2012, 13. I can't remember exactly, but that is an awesome record, and I'm still not content with the fact that it got also did not got the attention that we think that it should have had, you know.
Yeah. But then kind of switching to severe torture. So I think it was you and I can never say his name. So you formed the band in 97. So how did you get to know the guys?
Well, we our guitarist Thijs and
Dice,
our
that's how you say
yeah,
it.
yeah, yeah, yeah. It's a typical Dutch name. And our drummer said those two guys are nephews, actually. So they knew each other already, and I got to I met Thijs at school, and we were all just like starting metalheads. And so at first we started playing like Metallica songs. You know, I think a lot of guys started with playing covers, so we did the same. And very much soon after that, we started playing covers from Death and Gorefest and whatever. So we were the three original members, and then we got two other guys from the place that we live. And you know, me and Thijs are still in the band, so it's
Yeah.
been a long
The
time.
OGs.
The OGs, yeah.
Yeah. But then you started playing locally around the Netherlands, like releasing like some demos like the Baptized demo and stuff. But then eventually you got signed to your first label, Hammerheart Records, which
Yeah.
is also a label in the Netherlands. So how did they find Severe Torture?
Well, we were just fanatic as hell. So we played everywhere we could. And we were at all the death metal shows in the Netherlands we could go to. So, you know, eventually people started noticing us. And we got we had a decent live reputation. And one of the guys that worked at Hammerheart just, you know, took a shot. It was not as easy, you know, it was not like that we got a deal right away. We actually had to fight for it for a while, but once we got the trust from his name is Wilco. We got the trust from him. You know, we just went in full head. So yeah, I think we did not disappoint for them.
Yeah. But tell me about making the first Severe Torture album, Feasting on Blood. I thought this was a really underrated debut album. So, what was sort of like the thought process going into making the debut Severe Torture album?
Um, you know, we just were such big fans of you know Death and Deeds of Flesh at the time, you know, and we thought, okay, we want to make for us the most brutal record that's possible, but we just start writing tunes. We didn't even have a like a plan or whatever. We wrote some kick-ass riffs and you know, accompanied with some cool brutal lyrics, and we just went full ahead. And I think that's, you know, in the end, that's what that made that record also what it is. You know, we didn't think too much about the riffs or whatever, so it was very spontaneous. And you know, and as you got, you know, get bigger as a band or starting to get further, you start thinking too much. You know, this record is just, you know, like an impulse, but it came out perfect because it gave us the boost that we needed to get this band established.
Yeah. And I thought one thing was interesting was the song Baptized in Virginal No Liquid, because apparently I saw Metal Archives lyrics for apparently like that. I don't know which songs, but apparently it has like older version of the Severe Torture website. The lyrics are, but the remaining six songs have the proper lyrics, but has since been lost. But of course, you guys themselves can't recall the actual lyrics for those songs.
That it should. I think we should get all together and then start digging up in our memory if we want to get some of those lyrics. We don't play a lot of songs. I think we play two songs still from that record, so we know the lyrics for that as well.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's kind of crazy if you think about it. But you know,
Yeah. Yeah. But then when of course Feasting on Blood came out, did you start like touring outside of the Netherlands for the first time, or did you just play like locally around like Amsterdam and stuff?
first it was locally, but Hammerheart they also released records for Macabre and Broken Hope. So we went on tour with them, very fast after release of the album. So that also helped in getting our name out of, out there. And then we did in the same year or the year after, we went to the US for Ohio Death Fest. That was, for a band like us, that was the festival to play because you were all with your peers, all the band that inspire you or are trying to achieve the same thing. So we did that, and I think we did a couple of shows besides that.
Yeah. Yeah. And what was that whole experience like playing in America for the first time?
Yeah, I was never. Oh, I did go to America before with Centurion, but you know, it's a different vibe as in Europe, but in the end, it's the same vibe. So it's like a contradiction. But here in Europe, especially in the Netherlands, the facilities are just great. And in America, sometimes the facilities are just a little bit lacking. Well, it used to be in back in the day, especially for underground shows. And so it was awesome, and it was just awesome to see all the bands that we were listening to back home and just play. Be one of the first from Europe to see those bands play. That's just that was a great experience.
Yeah. And then next up is Misanthropic Carnage. I thought this was a great follow-up to Feasting in Blood because usually with the debut full-length album, you have like your entire life to write, and there's a lot of hype with the first album. When it came to making Misanthropic Carnage, did you feel like pressure to follow up Feasting on Blood?
Yeah, yeah, we did. Because you don't want to suck. And one of the things that we did set as goal for this record is to be the most brutal band from at least from the Netherlands. And so everything was a little bit over the top, and we didn't use any click or whatever. So sometimes the tempo are just way out there, and but I think it contributes to the vibe of that album. It's just over the top. For us, it was an over the top record, and people connected with it. So yeah, luckily for us, we did not suck.
Yeah. Yeah, and I thought that was a really, really great album. And then next up, Fall of the Despised. I love that album. Like it was also first album on Earache Records. So
Yeah.
how was it like working with them on that album?
We were at Amra did awesome for us in the beginning, but then they started to do some things that we were not happy about. So we wanted to leave, and Eric was interested. So that was just great to be on the label that had so many classic death metal albums on their catalog. And it was also the first record Fall of the Spies that we did with Marvin. We met Marvin on the tour that we did a year before. It was with Cannibal Corpse and Descended, and Marvin was playing for this German band, Descended, but he's Dutch. And so we met him, and we were looking for an extra impulse in songwriting. So we got Marvin into the band. So that's why the sound is a little bit different on Fall of the Despised. But yeah, me too. I think it's one of our best albums, Fall of the Despised. I
Yeah,
really
and
like.
yeah, and it's hard to believe next year will be the 20-year anniversary of that album. Is there like plans to do like a celebration somehow? Maybe throw in some like deep cuts in the set?
We don't have any plans yet, but if there's somebody out there is willing to pay us $1 million, we're gonna play that record in full.
Hey, I'd be there. Yeah, I think that's a great album. And then, of course, next up is Sworn Vengeance, another great album. Tell me about making that.
Um, for me, that was a difficult album to make because I lost my inspiration already a little bit, and I say already because after that it even got a little bit worse. It's not as inspiration to put effort in the band, but just songwriting. So Marvin did a lot of writing for that album. So that's why the album has a little bit more of a trash vibe. If it's not like the typical severe torture. It is severe torture, but it just had a different vibe. But in the end, also that album turned out, yeah, really good. We got a lot of good feedback on that album. So I was a little bit surprised, but of course, very happy that the album did so did so well.
Yeah. In my opinion, I think it's a very underrated album. I also love like Dismal Perception, hell of an opener, and I just love how it just
Yeah, we still
go goes into like Fall of the Despise. Like just like every song on there is just a banger from beginning to end.
Yeah, yeah, and the song "Dismal Perception" we still play that live as well as "Buried Hatchet." Those are two awesome songs to play. So we still have it in our set list.
Yeah. And I know in also in that same year you did the Ixaxar by Nox. Tell me about like that band.
Nox is actually if you can say so, the continuation of Centurion. So Centurion stopped because they had like different members when me and Seth left, and Rob just wanted to continue. He found a drummer, and so he was practicing with that guy, and well, he needed members, so he came to Seth and me again. So we joined Nox, and we did a demo, which was really cool. And after that, we did XXR, also on Earache. Yeah, it was the sub label from Earache, but on Earache Records. And yeah, also that we put so much time in that album, but it never took off. I think it's a shame because it's also it's a unique record. It's if you're into that stuff, that's it's a record you should buy. But it never took off. Sorry to say. So yeah.
Yeah. F. But anyway, talking about then going into back to Severe Torture with the previous album, Slaughtered. I love this album and of course first album with your now current label, Season of Mist. So how has the relationship been with Season of Mist and what was it like working with them?
It was just because of Sworn Vengeance did well, but Eric wanted hoped it should have done better. So we asked if we could leave, and we could. So we started looking for a new label, and Season of Mist was interested, and we got a deal that works perfectly for us. And they've been, you know, very good to us so far. Even though, we did Slaughtered, and we told the label owner Michael that we are not touring. So he was a little bit disappointed, but we said, fuck it, we don't tour, you know.
Yeah.
And uh, but he supported us, and when like 2 years ago, we contacted him again for this album and the EP that we did, and he was ready to go right away. So the relationship is really good with them. So they're a
Right.
great
Right.
label. They always find new and exciting bands. So we are, we're happy to be on that roster.
Yeah. Yeah, and now here we are with some new Severe Torture music. We have the new album, Torn from the Jaws of Death, coming out June 7th. And so, what was the whole writing and recording process like for the new Severe Torture album?
Yeah, if I go back to the moment that we started, um, there's a little bit, an era before that. Because after Slaughtered, we started writing right away for a new record, but it sounded like shit. Sorry to say that, but it wasn't. It wasn't. We were not getting the chills for what we were writing. So we dragged on and dragged on and dragged on, and in 2016 we just stopped with the band for a while. We did Maryland Death Fest that year, and we decided that this should be the last show that we did, and we put the band on hold. And after like a year or 2 years, we got back together, and then Seth, our original member, he said, I don't want to do this anymore." And so we figured, okay, are you okay with us continuing as with Torture? Well, if he didn't agree, we still would have done it, but he agreed, and so we had to find a new drummer. And then Damien came in, and then we started writing right away because we wanted to test him in how he did with writing new music. So he came in 2018. We started writing a little bit carefully, and then of course we had some songs finished, and then the whole Corona thing happened, and then fast forward. We finished writing the record like 2 years ago, and writing that record was just awesome. You know, we got some lot of good riffs, we got inspiration, and we can use Damien for all the tempos that we like. So it was really easy to write this record actually.
Yeah. And musically, did you wanted to pick up where you left off after Slaughtered, or being as it has been 14 years since we heard any new Severe Torture, it's almost like a new beginning for Severe Torture in a way.
Yeah, it was a new beginning, but you know, I'm still in the band, and Marvin was still in the band, and Thijs is still in the band. So, music-wise, I always wrote like half of the material, and Marvin half of the material. So you can recognize the riffs that I write. They always sound like on the of all the records, like the first two records maybe, and then Marvin is. Uh, writes a little bit different, but it was easy to find a way, and we did want it to be a little bit more heavy than or more brutal than Slaughtered, and so that was a goal. But yeah, I don't know, it just the riffs, went everywhere, and we were just excited as hell to get this stuff out as soon as possible. That's why we did the EP. But almost nobody listened to that. That's a shame because that EP is awesome. I think the EP, Fisting the Socket, is one of the best things we ever did together with this record, together with all the records. But yeah, hopefully the EP will catch some wind with releasing this new album as well.
Yeah. Yeah. And what would you say would be the overall message behind Torn from the Jaws of Death?
It's not like we have a real message. Of course, we have our opinions. Uh, just look at the news, man. The world is fucked up. But it's not we don't feel it's our place to spread our message. But you can read between the lyrics our message about, you know, us being a little bit misanthropic. I think everybody is misanthropic in a way, but it's yeah, and then you get, of course, the brutal stuff has to be in there. So you cannot really say it's a message, when you start killing people in your music. It's not like that. All right, people, now let's start this. No, no, no. It's just it's music, and you can read between the lines how we feel about humanity, and so that's the message. But the message is death metal. Death metal. We wanted to write a awesome death metal record. I think we did, but who am I to say? It's up to the people for themselves to decide. And so that is the message. Death
Yeah.
metal. Listen to death metal. That's the
Yeah.
message.
Yeah, in between like the 14 years between the two albums, like I know the world has changed. Like, of course, in the last few years, I know we had that certain virus that I refuse to name happen, but and then that pretty much left the world uncertainty, and I know it really affected the music industry a lot. It sort of like fucked everything up. So, did that at all sort of like influence like the sound of the album, like sonically, or did you want to try to be like escape all that and just try to keep that separate?
Yeah, we never, once that period was over, we never looked back. Of course it fucked the momentum of the band, because we wanted to uh get this album out like 4 years ago or whatever. We didn't never would have made it, but because of that period, everything got just put back. We never saw each other. We just wrote a little bit at home, but you need to be in the rehearsal room to really check out the riffs or whatever. But we never, it was over, so we never looked back.
All right, and of course, this album is the first album with your current drummer Damien. Did he bring in like something new rhythmically to Severe Torture that y'all didn't have before?
Um, you know, the one thing that he brought to this band was his stamina and his dedication and his new enthusiasm, and we really needed that. Seth is an awesome drummer. He's really creative, and me and him in so many bands together. I think this is the first release that I'm doing without him on drums, including the EP, of course. But it was a little bit getting used to the style from Damien, and he had to get used to the way that I want drums to be played
Yeah, of course,
without
being a
losing
rhythm
his.
section, buddy.
Yeah, yeah. And so I had to, normally I don't know how other bands do it, but if I write a riff and I have a certain vibe to it, I just could tell to set, okay, this is more immolation or this is more suffocation. And he knew right away what I meant with the drum style that we needed. So I had to teach a little bit to Damien, but he's been yeah, and lucky for him, for us that we found him and that he's from the Netherlands, so we don't have, got rehearsal problems or whatever. And he's doing an awesome job. I'm very happy that he's in the band.
Right. And kind of wanted to talk about your bass playing because I know you've heard your fair share of bass player jokes and memes and all that stuff, but I feel like you don't gravitate towards flashy bass playing, but instead I feel like you find ways to link what the guitars are doing with the melody and what the drums are doing with the rhythm, but in a very creative sense. So for you, what is like your approach to tracking the bass?
Um, well, I'm just always glad that I got it on tape. But but because we recorded everything at home, for me that was very relaxing because it's in the studio there's always pressure. And I was just, during the day I go to my job, and then in the evening I would just put on my laptop, plug in my bass, and started playing. And for me, I wrote a little bit more than half of this record. So and then I write everything on guitar, even though I'm not a guitarist. So it's even more difficult for me to write different bass parts on the stuff that I write than coming up with bass parts that on the stuff that Marvin writes. But Severe Torture is not the band for flashy bass playing. Of course, I throw in some little tricks here and there, but you know, uh, it's it's just death metal, so it doesn't make any sense for me to start playing soloing. I have no ambitions in being a bass solo maniac or whatever. So I just figured out what works best, and then compared with the riffs and with the drums, and that's the way I approach it. And
Yeah.
then if it works out, it's great.
Yeah, and there's always still some people that say like, "Oh, bass is important." Like, come on, Lemmy, Peter Steele, Glenn Benton, come on.
Yeah, bass is a very big part, especially in metal, and well, you got these low-tuned guitars nowadays, but even bands that have only two guitars or whatever, they are missing the low end. So bass is important, but in modern metal, it gets a little bit snowed under with those heavy guitars. So it's we are lucky, well, at least maybe I'm lucky, that we are still tuned in standard D. Everybody's tuned so low, but we refuse to tune so low because it challenges you to write creative riffs without hiding behind the low tuning.
Yeah, and also like intonation, because the lower you get, the harder it is to like keep like your instrument in tune.
Yeah, also, but for us, it's all about the riff, and there's no yeah, and the bass is part of the riff, man. So
Yeah.
we try to show it as much as possible.
Totally. And still talking about bass because I'm always curious about like what your like rig setup is like in terms of like the basses you use, like strings, pedals, and amps and stuff.
Yeah, okay, a good question. I'm not a gearhead, but I do have a preference for Tobias basses. I accidentally bought one when I was very young, and that exact bass, it's even like a Tobias Toby Pro, so not even an American made or whatever, but I use it on all my recordings, and all the engineers I work with, they say that that bass sounds the best of all the basses that I have. So I have like maybe three Tobias basses that I'm very happy with, and I have I have some Fender and I have some Ibanez because they gave me a good deal. But they're on my backup basis. I only play Tobias live. So I have my Tobias, and the one I use live has Bartolini pickups in it. That's why I have the Ibanez bases as well as backup because they have the Bartolini pickups in them as well. And I use a Sans amp, and I've been using the same one as for the last 20, 25 years. And that's the magic thing, it's just my bass and my Sans amp, and I can go to a show, and then I have everywhere I have the exact same sound. So I
Yeah.
don't have any
Yeah.
modern stuff, whatever. It's
Yeah.
just that.
Yeah, so is like your setup like the same as like recording from as it was when you play live?
Yeah, exactly the same. Like I said, it's just to the bias and my Sans amp, and
Yeah.
it sounds awesome.
Yeah, if it ain't broke, don't fix it.
No, exactly that. Yeah.
Yeah. And talking about like your live show, because I've yet to see Severe Torture, but I am gonna see you all at Maryland Death Fest
All right.
in a little over a week. So in terms of playing live, how different of a mind frame is it to like playing live versus like recording? Is there any similarities or differences between the two?
Uh, well, for me, it's totally different because when I'm recording, I have to be very precise. And live, nobody's going to hear a little fuck up that I'm making. So it's and live, you're getting the energy, from the other guys in the band, but also from the crowd. Um, and also that's the hard part, when you have a dead crowd, then it's working. But if you have to work for your living at that moment. But if you have a crowd that goes out of their mind, then it's just one big party, and then it's walk in the park or whatever. It's easy to play those shows, uh, but the energy and the mindset is totally different because yeah, when you're recording at home, it's just you and the laptop, whatever. And but live, everybody is looking at you, and you're just hoping that they will receive it well, and then that they're getting enthusiastic or whatever, because that's like a measurement if they like it or not. For me, but yeah, so that's totally different. But
Yeah, I noticed you also play like a bunch of like festivals and stuff. And if you had like a dream festival, like who would you want to be on like your dream festival to play on and why?
oh, uh, as a death metal head, of course, all the major death metal bands, that would be awesome. But I don't have like a dream lineup because I'm fortunate enough. I've seen all the bands that I want to see, and we did play a lot of cool festivals already with dream lineups. So I think it would be more of a chance to play for different people. Of course, playing for the Metallica crowd makes no sense, but just opening for Metallica, you just have childhood sakes or whatever you want to call it. That would be perfect for me. Just play for Metallica.
Yeah, James and Lars, if you're watching this, book them.
Yeah, yeah, I'm gonna send him a text right away. No.
But yeah, thank you, Patrick, for this conversation. I know with the release of Torn from the Jaws of Death, is just anything else you'd like to plug in terms of tours and stuff? And is there a chance we can get Severe Torture to tour the states eventually? I mean, I'm looking forward to seeing you at Maryland Death Fest soon. I'm actually road tripping from Georgia all the way to Baltimore to see you guys.
All right, nice. Make sure if you see me walking by that come to me and then we'll drink a beer together.
Fuck yeah.
Uh, well, we're playing Maryland Death Fest, and after Maryland Death Fest, together with Bloodbath, Primordial, and Argoat, we are playing 4 shows after that. In the week after that, we're playing Chicago, Seattle, and we're playing Mesa, Arizona, and Los Angeles. Los Angeles is already sold out, so I'm very pleased with that. And we don't have any other tour plans in the US at the moment. Like I said, we are not like a touring band. Who knows? If
Yeah,
the
just do like
opportunity is
weekend
right,
gigs.
yeah, or maybe like a week or 2 weeks, it should be okay. It's not that, we all have families, we all have jobs, and we did that when we were young. And I'm not telling them, I'm old. I'm 46, so I got at least 40 years ahead of me. But it's for us, it's a hobby. So we cherry pick the shows that we do, and now we are lucky enough to play more than Maryland Death Fest. Ryan from my Maryland Death Fest has been loyal to us, and he's been, he booked us for this festival again, and then for those shows with Bloodbath and Primordial, two bands that I really like, and I'm really looking forward. So that's it for the moment. And oh yeah, listen to our EP, Fisting the Sockets. You also get, so buy this record, Torn from the Jaws of Death, and buy the EP, Fisting the Sockets.
Awesome. So thank you, Patrick. Is there just any final words you want to say to the viewers that are watching this to close this out?
Well, thank you for watching, and I hope you enjoy our latest record. If not, then listen to it again, and I'm pretty positive you will like it. And everybody who's will be attending our shows in the US, just come on by and we drink a beer and talk death metal or whatever.
Nice. So everybody, Patrick from Severe Torture. We'll see you next time.